Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It's Monday. I hope you're having a good one wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. It's the start of another week. It's the start of a big week. Of course, Arsenal's pre-season campaign gets underway this week. Finally, we have some football to talk about, which is obviously important because, let's face it, that is kind of the game that the whole thing revolves around, of course, is football. I know transfers are interesting and generate lots of debate, lots of conversation during the summer. It's very, very important. We all want to know who Arsenal are going to sign, all that sort of stuff. But it is nice when football actually returns and we can start talking about the game itself, which, again, I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves, especially at this time of the year, that is what it's all about at the end of the day. So, yes, looking forward to that. Mikel Arteta has been speaking at a press conference today in Singapore at the start of Arsenal's tour. So we are going to talk about transfers, having just given that intro, because Mikel was obviously asked about transfers a lot during that press conference. So we'll look at what he's had to say on all that sort of stuff today. For Inside Arsenal Patreon members, there is an Arsenal Press Pass show being recorded later on today as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you want to become an Inside Arsenal Patreon member, then you can do so. If you're not already, then you can find the link down in the description below. You get access to the Press Pass show, the weekly Press Pass show, all of my usual shows here, completely ad-free. Of course, get access to the Inside Arsenal Discord chat, which is great. Really good community thriving over there. Access to giveaways, all that sort of stuff as well, and hopefully some more shows being planned as well to once the new season gets underway. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you want to become an Inside Arsenal member, then you can join down below. Just copy and paste that link into your browser. Go to Patreon and become a member. Thank you so much to all of you who already are, and thank you to your support as always. So right, let's go and talk about what Mikel's been saying. He's been doing a press conference over in Singapore. He's asked about lots and lots of stuff. So we get cracking in terms of what he has been talking about. So we've got to start on transfers, obviously. Was a big point of discussion in the press conference. What's going on? What's been going on already this summer? How happy he is with that, but also what could be to come as well in this sort of final however many weeks it is left of the transfer window. So in terms of the business so far, he said it's like shaking the tree again and when you're bringing in new faces, they bring new excitement and new energy as well. We signed some very important players. Again, everybody feels like their height has to go to a different level, and that's what we're seeking. Ideally, you want your transfers done on day one in pre-season. We've done very, very well so far. I'm very pleased with the way the club is supporting the necessities and improvements that we required in the team. Andrea Berta and the team have done an excellent job as well, trying to push everything forward. There's still a long time to go in the window. We have a lot of hopes that we can still improve the team. We're going to continue to try and do that. He was asked specifically about Victor Gyokeres, and I think you can guess his answer, although it is an answer that a lot of Arsenal fans, certainly on social media, have sort of jumped upon as a good positive sign, hint, if you want to call it that. So when asked about Gyokeres, he said, "I cannot comment on any player who is not part of the group yet." And that yet is what a lot of people have jumped on there. He continued by saying, "When we have something concrete to offer in any case on any player, we will do that. There's still a long time in the window and we are seeking, in terms of numbers, we are short. We have to improve the depth and the quality of the squad." I'm very pleased so far. There's a lot of parties and things that we have to bear in mind to get a player over the line. I'm very hopeful that we're going to do it very soon. So that was Arteta's sort of response when asked specifically about Victor Gyokeres. And again, that word yet, a lot of people have sort of jumping on that last sentence that I just said there, where he talked about he's confident things are going to happen very, very soon. Now, yesterday was an interesting day. Is that the right way of describing it? We had the Manchester United stuff, basically, which made me laugh because maybe that explained why Victor Gyokeres' father was in tears, said to be in tears the day before, because suddenly it dawned on him that Manchester United might be coming back in for the running for him, and that wouldn't be too appealing a prospect. I joke, of course. Sorry, any Man United fans who are watching this. Well, I'm not really. But anyway, there was sudden reports that said that Manchester United have entered into the run-in for Victor Gyokeres and all that sort of stuff, which, quite frankly, I just kind of let gloss over me at this stage. There's one club that Victor Gyokeres wants to sign for, and that's Arsenal. not Manchester United. He's made that abundantly clear by so far what's happened this summer. And this deal is still on. It's not off yet. I don't want to say yet and make you think, oh my God, it's going to fall off. I still think, and I said it yesterday, I still think this is a deal that gets done. I just think it is. I think there's a potentially quite an important development happening right now that Sporting are about to sign Luis Suarez. No, not that Luis Suarez, a different Luis Suarez, plays for Almira. But they're about to sign him. So they're bringing in a striker, Sporting. And when I look at the delay and what's going on and the kind of posturing and to-ing and throwing that's going on at the moment, I do think the Sporting bringing in a striker is potentially a very important part of this process and it moving forward. They'll have their replacement on board. That will make it easier to soften the blow of Gyokeres going for a start, to their fans, to the stock market over there, because they are a listed company. And I just think that's potentially a very important development. So I do expect still Victor Gyokeres to sign for Arsenal. I don't expect him to go to Manchester United. I'm sure people will clip this up later on in the window when he's holding a Man United shirt at Old Trafford after signing, but I still genuinely believe that is the case. So when I look at what Arteta's been saying over there, it just comes across as a manager, I think, who's still fairly calm in terms of how things are going, what the club are doing, the work that's going on, and how quickly a couple of more signings, or certainly one important signing, will arrive. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Victor Gyokeres. He also obviously talked about the new signings who've already come on board. On Noni Madueke, he said, "I'm very, very excited. You've seen the reaction of all the players as well, especially the ones that know him. He needs a little bit of a break now, but he will be with us soon, showing us what he can bring to the team." He was asked about the Chelsea thing and why Arsenal signed so many players from Chelsea, such a direct rival. And he said it's probably because they have some great players and a lot of players, but we try to focus on the players that we want to sign, regardless of the club that they are in. It's probably a coincidence. What is not a coincidence is the squad and the quality of their squad. While I'm here, I congratulate them on winning the Club World Cup because it's a big achievement for them. He was then asked about Zubimendi and him signing. He said it was a long, long process. He had a lot of opportunities to decide whether he wanted to come. The good news is that the club is amazing and everybody wants to come to it. He left some very good opportunities to come to us. We are all very impressed with what we've seen in the last 7 to 10 days. Once you have the player daily there, and you see his character, his personality, his intelligence, and how much he's going to bring to the team, I'm very excited about it. So that's what he had to say on Noni Madueke, on Zubimendi. He talked about, as I said, when he said about sort of shaking the tree, the other new signings and the impact that they've made and how it just improves the quality of the squad. Now, it's not been a great start for the Singapore tour. They were supposed to train this morning, Arsenal, but it's been dreadful weather over there. And so that training session had to be cancelled. They're going to be training a little bit later on today. So not the ideal preparation, not the ideal start to the tour, but not massively unexpected. I think when you go and play over there, you've got to expect sometimes some torrential downpours. It's just a part of the world. And when I was over there for the last Singapore tour, actually, I remember there was some terrible, terrible rain at some point. So it does happen, and they are due to train later. So they will get a session in ahead of that game against Milan a little bit later on in the week. They did have a game before flying out against Watford, a pre-season game behind closed doors at London Colney. Actually, it was 2-0, I think the score was, before they went out there. Quite a few players played in that, some of the big name players. I think Havertz scored. Ben White, I think, scored a goal as well. Gabriel played, which is a really positive. Arteta was talking about that actually during the press conference, how important that was that he played some minutes. Saliba as well. He talked about the players, how they've all come back. Some of the injured players who finished last season injured, but they're all looking good right now. Gabriel got 45 minutes in that game against Watford, so I suggest we'll certainly see him on the pitch against AC Milan as he builds up his fitness. But that's real positive because obviously there were some key players, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel, who finished last season with sort of injury issues, and you wanted to make sure they were back for the start of the pre-season. And all the positive signs at the moment, certainly what Arteta was saying in his press conference today, suggests that they are. So that was a good sign for me. He also talked about Thomas Partey today. He was asked about Thomas Partey. This is the first time Arteta's obviously been at a press conference publicly since the news of Partey's charge was announced. And obviously, at the time that Partey was charged, Arsenal put out a statement that just said the player's contract ended on June the 30th due to ongoing legal proceedings. The club is unable to comment on the case. Now, Arteta was asked about Partey, and he said, I think the club was very clear in the statement. There are a lot of legal matters that are very complicated, so I cannot comment on that. James of Gunnerblog then asked, was he confident that the club had followed all the right processes during what was going on with Thomas Partey? And Mikel replied 100%. So that was the first time he's spoken about that case. And obviously that case is ongoing, and Partey will be appearing in court for the first time very, very soon. I think everyone's got their own opinion on how the club handled that situation. It's obviously been an incredibly difficult thing to talk about or not talk about for the last 3 years while this has all been going on. Very, very tough to not be able to talk about it. And I've seen, all the comments over the 3 years coming into here, why aren't you talking about it? Why are you ignoring it? All that sort of stuff. Of course, you're not ignoring it. You're not talking about it. We just literally couldn't talk about it here because of law during those 3 years. And that was an incredibly difficult time for it. And it's still difficult to talk about now with the case ongoing. You can certainly talk about how you feel, I suppose, the club handled that situation. And as the club say, they believe, legally they handled the processes, very complicated processes, in the right way. You can all have your opinions on that. Could they have done more? I think they definitely could have done. I don't think that's really in question. I think they definitely could have done more. They followed what they believe were the legal guidelines. They put things in place. They spoke to all the legal people to ensure that they were following what they believed were the guidelines. But still, it was, when it comes to offering him a new contract and trying to keep him when all that stuff was going on, again, Thomas Partey absolutely says, that he is not guilty of these crimes that he's charged with. And he has made clear in his statement through his lawyer that he is looking forward to being able to finally clear his name. But even so, Arsenal were in quite a difficult position. When he was under contract, and this happened after obviously he was signed. But when you then start to, with all this going on, you start to talk about extending a contract, that's when it puts you in a really, that's difficult to comprehend, that decision at the time. But we'll see. It's a very difficult situation to talk about still, obviously, and it's been an incredibly difficult 3 years to talk about. But yeah, that was what Mikel Arteta had to say today. His first public comments on that he believes the club handled it in the right way, 100%. He said, when he was asked by James Gunnerblog whether he believed the processes the club had put in place were the correct ones. Right, let's talk about Gabriel now, shall we? As I said, he played 45 minutes against Watford, which was really encouraging ahead of the start of the new season, ahead of the start of pre-season as well, given the injuries issues that ruled him out of the final sort of 6 weeks, whatever it was, of last season. He's been speaking, Gabriel, on the new signings that have arrived. He gave an interview ahead of the tour. He said, I think the players that come will help us out a lot. The club is doing what is best for the players and for the manager. They are definitely doing their best to bring the best players in that can help us, but we have to focus on what we can do now on the pitch. The players that are here are doing that. We are strong. We are getting stronger with these players. It excites me. We want to have the best players with us to be in the hunt for titles. You have to have the best players. He was asked about Victor Gyokeres and the whole celebration. Remember, Gabriel did a sort of version of it after he scored in the game at Sporting last season. Slightly different. Gyokeres obviously was that. Gabriel did that. And he was asked about Gyokeres. He says, we all know he is a great player, but he is a Sporting player and not an Arsenal player. Playing against him last year was a challenge. He is great and had a great season. About the celebration, it is not something I can talk about yet. He was also asked about the links with Saudi Arabia and signing a new contract. He said he didn't hear about the links with Saudi Arabia. Not sure about that, Gabby. I'm pretty sure you probably did. But in terms of signing a new contract, he said, I've been at the club for 5 years now, and I've seen how much the club has grown. I'm here to win big titles, and I do believe that this season will be different. We have let a couple of titles slip through our fingers recently. We almost won, but I think this year things will be different. I have a lot of faith in that. So that's what Gabriel has had to say ahead of the tour about his contract, about Victor Gyokeres. And but more importantly than all of that, just fantastic to see him back fit, playing. And fingers crossed he has a very, very good pre-season. New third kit has been launched. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that right now. Obviously, that sort of blue classic, well, if you can call it a classic, I suppose, the old sort of blue lightning bolt type Arsenal design that we've seen on and off. Obviously, the original one back in '94, I think it was. I had David Platt, number 7 on the back of that. I think we had it from like 94 to 96, something like that. And I remember I got David Platt on the back of that shirt, the original one. We had one a few years ago as well that was kind of similar to this one, but that is a new kit. You see Calafiori as usual modeling it. Of course he is. I don't mind it. I think the white kit's nicer. I think the white kit's gorgeous. The third kit that hasn't been released yet. I think it's gorgeous. My only issue is it's white. And I know that shouldn't really be an issue, or maybe it should. I don't know. But it's one that I struggle with whenever Arsenal have a white kit. They're always pretty nice. Like the one when Arsenal went to San Siro, beat AC Milan 2-0, Cesc and Adebayor scored in 08, 09. I think that's right. 08, 07, 08. That was a gorgeous kit. I thought it was really, really nice. But again, it's just white. And this white one's lovely that we're going to be bringing out soon. I really do think it's lovely. But I think I prefer it to this one. But I think they're all strong. I think they're all strong kits. I'm quite happy with the kits Arsenal have got this season, I have to say. I think Adidas have done all right with these ones. And that is the latest one. It is out now, I believe. If you want to go and buy it, you can. And the third kit will be announced a little bit later on, or revealed a little bit later on in the summer. Before I go, I've got a question here from Ash, who simply says, why is Vieira not on the pre-season tour? Is he injured or something? No, it's not. It's because he was involved at the Club World Cup with Porto because of his loan spell. Didn't end until after that Club World Cup. And so that's why he is not on the tour. Same situation as Noni Madueke, just been given an extended holiday because his season went so deep and he was playing until just a couple of weeks ago. So he will be back with the squad, I'm sure, after the pre-season tour. Whether we see him involved, whether Arteta actually uses him in pre-season once he's back for the Emirates Cup game. And we'll have to wait and see on it. But the reason he's not on the tour now is because of his involvement with Porto at the Club World Cup. And that is it from me today, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Appreciate your time as always. Do have a good start to your week wherever you are around the world. I'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. And of course, for Inside Arsenal Patreon members, we do have an Arsenal Press Pass show coming up a little bit later on today. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Have a good one, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.